talk about understanding. First of all, let's define what abortion is. It is a medically induced premature death of a preborn baby in a womb. Okay? So something's happening in the womb. The Urf position is that there is something alive in the womb. I'm carrying a baby. See the language? I'm carrying a child. Now, what abortion means is that you're destroying something that is growing in life with you. So the debate began as these questions arose whether we should have abortion or we should not have abortion, in a metaphysical sense, really. When a sperm and when an egg meets together and form a fertilized ovum, the question began to be asked, is it alive? Because that's the stage where the two meets and the baby comes, baby grows. So let's go to the beginning in a physical sense. When sperm and egg meet and they get fertilized, is this whatever conceptus is, which is called a conceptus, is it alive? And if it is alive, can we say that that little thing, sperm and egg, is it a person? Can we call it a person? Does an assemblage of two cells constitute a human being? Can we say this is a human being now? When does a human being come into existence? Now, these are the questions that arose after this issue of abortion. And the debate started. The debate, there are people who opposed abortion. And what was their argument? They said that it is a murder of an unborn child. Whatever is growing at whatever stage, it is a murder. And then there are others who argued that this little thing that is carried by a woman, it is a woman's body. And therefore, woman has a right to choose whatever happens to her body. Fetus doesn't have that right, a woman has that right. And women's right overwhelms the fetus right. Because the woman is a person, the fetus or those cells is not really a person. And therefore, person has more value and the cells that is growing within the human body doesn't have that much of a value. So, this is how it is. They are called pro-choice. In other words, they believe that the woman's freedom must be there. So let's look at the arguments briefly. People who oppose abortion, they say whatever is growing is a human, and human is morally significant, and therefore it is wrong to kill whatever is significant. The people who are for abortion, they are saying that what matters morally, what is valuable, is not a human being inside, but a person. So you see, immediately we now have to define what is a person, what is a human being, who is a human being, when does the human being has that value. Next slide. So that was the debate. Now, next slide, please. I've given you some arguments. Next slide, questions. So the questions that began in a society was, does the right of life of a fetus override the right of a life of a mother? And if you take the right of a fetus away, then in what stage or in what circumstances would you do that? And then the question was, when does the value of the fetal life, which is growing within the human, within the mother, outweigh other consideration, such as the health and happiness of the mother? So these are the questions that were being asked. Next. So what is the Muslim viewpoint on abortion? Now, how does Islam define it? And what does Islam say about this? Islam defines abortion as the intentional discharge of the fetus from the womb prematurely and artificially without a justification for such an action. So that is the Islamic definition of abortion. That means that you are intentionally damaging whatever there is in the body. And then I have quoted some ayah there. Now it's very important to look at those ayahs because that gives you an idea, that gives you some principles that we can work with. Do not kill your children for fear of want. It is we who should provide sustenance for them as well as for you. Verily, killing them is a great sin. So here we are getting an indication that even if you are in the poverty-stricken stage and you feel that another child will be a burden to you, do not kill them. And look at this ayah. And when the female infant buried alive is questioned for what crime she was killed. Now many ulamas have expanded this particular ayah to include abortion, because the aborted fetus will demand from the mother, what crime did he or she committed that you are taking away my life? They have expanded that to include abortion. And do not take any human being's life, whether it is at a 2-stage level or a 3-stage level or whatever, the life which Allah has willed to be sacred, except in pursuit of justice. That means if the person has committed a horrendous crime, then of course another framework begins. But an innocent life, you don't take it. Next slide, please. Both Shia and Sunni jurists are of the view that abortion is forbidden and an offense and extends to the termination of pregnancy from the earliest stages. So now, when they give a ruling like this, we then have to ask questions. What stage does the pregnancy begin then? Is it at the stage when sperm and egg meet? Or is it at the time of fertilization? Or is it at the time when the egg and the sperm, having met, settles down somewhere? When does the pregnancy begin? Because the definition of abortion is that you are now destroying the pregnancy. A pregnancy means that there's something which is growing within you. Does it begin when the semen enters the uterus, or at fertilization, or at implantation? So the question is, what is the Shari definition of the beginning of pregnancy? So after the analysis, there is a viewpoint that the earliest stage of pregnancy is when the sperm settles down, implanted on the lining of uterus. And as soon as that happens, that is the start of pregnancy, and you are not then allowed to carry out abortion. You're not allowed to remove that conceptus which is implanted now. Before that, it's okay. And that's why contraception is allowed, but abortion is haram. So contraception is allowed, but abortion is haram. It's only allowed when the continuation of pregnancy will endanger the woman's life. If the woman's life is endangered, and this is proved medically, then then abortion can be carried out. And again, here there are stipulations as well, but I don't want to go into that. But at least you have understood the general principles, how the Islamic scholars are working. So this is briefly abortion, and you have some understanding of how we go about negating abortion, prohibiting abortion, based on the Qur'anic ayah and the principles derived from there. And so the answer to the question would be that it would be haram to abort, even if it is genetically affected. Unless, of course, the woman's health is at danger.